lovers. It is G-Swiss here, and I'm here today to talk about the books that I would love to reread in 2023. I love rereading. I mean, I have a problem. My shelves are full with books that I have not yet read, but a major problem alongside that is rereading a lot of books when I have unread books on my shelves. I acknowledge it, but in my personal opinion, there's no point of having a book collection if there aren't books that you already love and adore, or there aren't series that you love and adore. And there's no point in continuing on with a series if you don't think that the series is worthy of a reread. Pretty much majority of the books on this list aren't like completed series. Majority of them are books I want to read in the lead up to sequels that are coming out. There's an exception to that, but pretty much this video is a way of me tracking what books I would like to reread this year in the lead up to some sequels, or just some books that I would like to reread in general, because I love making lists and I love staying organized, and the way I do that is by making videos. But also on top of that, it kind of gives you a little bit of a look-see on how my reading life works, essentially. So I guess without further ado, let's get straight into this video where I talk about the books that I plan to reread this year. Starting off with probably, I'm pretty sure my only contemporary I have on this list, that is Here for the Right Reasons by Jodi McAllister. I love Jodi McAllister. I love her Valentine trilogy. I've talked about that previously here on my channel. Would highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out yet. A great urban fantasy series that I would recommend to fans of Vampire Academy and Crave. But Jodi is currently in the middle of writing a romance companion series, and the second book, Can I Steal You for a Second, is coming out in 2023, and I am so looking forward to it. However, all three of the novels in this companion series intertwine, and I'm pretty sure, not 100% sure, but I am pretty sure that they all take place at the exact same time. So I'm fascinated here. But if not, I mean, I'm pretty sure I will love Can I Steal You for a Second anyway, because I was very much interested in the two characters that are going to be starring in that novel. And I read about them in Here for the Right Reasons, and I really want to reread Here for the Right Reasons just to visit the main romance as well, but also see if I can pick up some more hints. I'm very much looking forward to this reread because I loved Here for the Right Reasons. This book made me cry, and I reckon that my reread is just going to make me cry even more. It's going to make me even more happy. I'm going to experience more serotonin. I just need a boost, and you know what? Here for the Right Reasons is going to give me that boost. I already know it. Also, if you guys don't know, this book and this series takes place on a reality TV show setting that is pretty much based on The Bachelor, and I am living for it. I am living for the drama. The drama in here is hilarious, and I cannot wait to read more of the series, and you know what? To experience more of Lily Fireball. If you don't know who she is, you must read the series because she's absolutely hilarious, even though she loves to stir the pot. My goodness. And the next book I'm bringing from my pile is The Blood Trials by Annie Davenport. This was one of my favorite books of last year. I absolutely adored it, and I know that I need to reread it for the full kind of cinematic experience that the rest of the series is going to bring. This, from what I know at the moment, is a duology, and I reckon that it fits well as a duology because this book alone kind of feels like I was reading two books crammed into one, but nothing was rushed. Everything was perfectly paced. It's a very dense book, but the reading experience was absolutely incredible, and it was super intense, and I love myself a good amount of adrenaline while reading books because it just gets me super motivated, super pumped to be part of the world and the story. So I am really hoping that The Blood Gift is just as good as The Blood Trials because I am going all in with this series. And the next book I plan to reread in 2023 is Only a Monster by Vanessa Len. This book, I believe, has a sequel coming out in 2023. I'm pretty sure this series is a trilogy. If it got reduced to a duology, I do not know what I'm gonna do with myself. Only a Monster, I would say, I don't have like a pressing urge to reread it, and I think that's because I know that it's a trilogy, so I don't know whether or not I would want to read the second book this year, or if I would like to wait for the third book to come out and then binge read them all together. We will find out as to whether or not Only a Monster will be read in 2023. But what I can say is that Only a Monster is an incredible first book in a series. I honestly cannot wait to revisit it at some point, and if I don't get to it in 2023, I will definitely get to it in 2024, but I'm putting it here just in case I do have the urge to reread it in the lead up to the sequel, and if I'm fine to be left on the cliffhanger of the sequel, because from what I know, it is a trilogy. The next book I would like to pick up this year is Iron Widow. I would like to reread Iron Widow in the lead up to Heavenly Tyrant. I believe this is a duology, and I just know that I want to revisit this because the story was epic. However, I would like to remember the little details of the story before going going into the epic sequel slash finale. Personally, I find myself a big fan of the story because it gave me some Evangelion vibes. I mean, with the mechs. I also liked the politics in here as well. I liked following the protagonist and I liked following the characters on the side. I loved the plot of this novel, and so I want to reread it in the lead up to the second book to kind of just remember, recap, all that stuff, etc. Look, even if a book has like a 1 or 2 page recap, sometimes I don't care. Sometimes I want the full experience because it feels a little bit more cinematic that way. So that is how I'm feeling with Iron Widow. I'm hoping that I love it just as much as I loved it the first time. Maybe I might like it even more knowing what to expect from it now. And the next book I would like to reread this year is Twin Crowns by Catherine Doyle and Catherine Weber. This book I really enjoyed, and I'm not gonna lie, at this point, I do remember a fair chunk of the story, so I really don't know as to whether or not I will need to reread it in the next few months. But I was thinking, just in case the entire plot escapes my memory, or like little fragments of the plot, if it escapes my memory, I reckon this would be a good reread option for me because I really enjoyed the story. I still think about it. I love these two sisters, and I love the magic system in here. I love the political intrigue in here. It very much gives me vibes of The Princess Will Save You and Sisters of the Snake. I'd say that it's those two essentially combined into one book, and I believe that this is going to be a duology as well. So yeah, I kind of also really want the full reading experience here. I could just wait till the sequel comes out, but I'm pretty sure by the time the sequel comes out, I will have forgotten most of the story. Some of the story may escape my brain. So I'm deciding I want to reread this book in the lead up to Cursed Crowns. I really love this book, and I cannot wait to read the sequel this year. And I know what you guys might be thinking. You might be thinking, what? Jeez whiz, I see Crave on the stack again. Are you really gonna put yourself through another reread? The answer is yes. I am. You bet I am. In 2022, I thought that all Court, Charm, and Cherish were coming out. That was what was announced initially. But Cherish got pushed out to 2023, and as soon as I finished Charm, no joke, I wanted to reread it so bad. I wanted to go straight back into this book and reread it. I just decided, no, that's not gonna happen. What's gonna happen instead is I'm going to reread all 5 books. This was initially going to be the thing of 2022. I was going to reread these books in the lead up to the second half of the series, and the second half of the series would have been out in 2022. But no, that's not what happened. Instead, what happened was the last book in the series got pushed out to mid-2023. So I'm gonna do it again. I am going to do it again. I find myself enjoying the series the more I reread it. I know that sounds wild because I understand why a lot of people can't even get through the series. But knowing what I know now about the outcome of the series, it gives me motivation to keep going. And initially, I kind of hated Covet, but now I really appreciate Covet as a story because I reread it and I had a new perspective on it. Now that I know what I know about Charm and about Court, I know that getting through the rest of the series won't be difficult for me. I am so excited for this reread. I know, it's 5 books I'm going to reread in the lead up to a 6th book, and that's it. But you know what? The payoff is going to be worth it. Do I know when I'm gonna have time to read the series? I really don't know. I'm just gonna have to trust my gut here and try to figure that out all on my own because yeah, I have a busy work schedule, but I will try to make time. But who knows, maybe I might read another 300 books next year. And the next book I would like to reread in the lead up to the sequel in 2023 is This Vicious Grace by Emily Thiede. I loved this book the first time that I read it. I was almost immediately captivated in it, even though it was a very slow book. It is very much a slow burn, but I enjoyed it. I loved this beautiful apocalyptic fantasy, and I want to revisit this world even though it's apocalyptic. I find apocalyptic novels to usually be those novels I'd like to stay away from, but I found this book to be absolutely beautiful that I could not help but want to reread it. Kind of like Charm, I felt like rereading this as soon as I finished it, but I was like, no, I'm going to keep that experience for next year. So that's what I did. 2023 is here. I am planning to reread this in the lead up to the sequel, and I believe that the sequel is also the finale. I will be a little bit devastated to say goodbye to these characters because these characters meant so much to me at the time that I read this book. I cannot wait to visit them again, but I also have high hopes for the sequel. So fingers crossed the sequel will be amazing. Because if not, then once again, I will be disappointed in a duology. And I don't want to witness another duology problem. I really don't. And the second last book series I would like to mention on my rereads list for 2023 is the Flesh and Fire series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Initially, I was going to put the Blood and Ash series on this list, but I mean, we're not going to have another Blood and Ash book until 2024, so I can rest with the Blood and Ash series. I mean, we are going to get the Hawk POV novel, which I'm looking forward to, but I don't see the point in rereading the series for that because we're essentially starting off the series from his perspective, so I'll leave it at that. However, the last book in the Flesh and Fire series is coming out in 2023, and I would love to prepare for it. Once again, I feel like A Light in the Flame was one of those novels I wanted to reread instantly after my first read, but I am saving that read for this year. So far, I've already read A Shadow in the Ember twice, but I am so looking forward to reading it a third time because I love this series, I love these characters, and in my personal opinion, at the moment, the Flesh and Fire series is superior to the Blood and Ash series. Even though it is technically the prequel series, the Blood and Ash series is meant to be kind of the main series within this universe. The Flesh and Fire series, in my personal opinion, has a better romantic dynamic, and I kind of like the characters a little bit better. I mean, I do like the Blood and Ash series, and I do find the characters in that series to be very comforting. I do like the plot in that series as well. However, in terms of the direction of this series, oh my goodness, does it make me smile. I'm absolutely obsessed with the Flesh and Fire series and would 100% recommend it. If you have given up on the Blood and Ash series because of the series direction, like if you're unhappy with it, I understand. However, I would still recommend the Flesh and Fire series because it's its own separate thing. You don't need to read the other Blood and Ash books to appreciate it. I just love the romantic dynamic a lot better. If you want good fantasy romance, the Flesh and Fire series is much better, in my personal opinion. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to rereading these books and giving the Blood and Ash series a break because I think I need a break from that series. The War of Two Queens really burnt me out on it. And the final book series that I plan to reread in 2023 is not necessarily a book series I'm reading in the lead up to something. Well, actually, no jokes. I am technically planning to reread this in the lead up to a novel that's set in the same world, but not necessarily with the same characters from what I know. However, I really just want to reread the series because it's getting republished in a new format. And while the author said that there aren't going to be significant changes to the story, the other day I was on audible.com.au and I was looking at the audiobook pre-orders for the series, and I had noticed that the audiobook narrator has been updated. Like, they've changed audiobook narrators. And that is leading me to believe that there have been a few changes in terms of writing. And so it's made me even more curious to revisit the Bargainer trilogy, not in these editions. These right here, even though they are the Bookish Box special editions, they are the independently published editions. This being said, I am planning on buying the traditionally published editions because this is one of my favorite series of all time. I adore this series, and I thought to myself, maybe I don't need to reread it, but I have already established that the Bargainer trilogy is a comfort read of mine. So even if I was to reread it, I know I'm going to enjoy it. I know that I'm going to love the story just as much as I did the first time. However, this time I'm curious as to what has been updated in this series. I don't know whether I'm going to read them in physical format or I'm going to listen to them on audio. I don't know whether I'm going to repurchase the audiobooks because I have the initial audiobooks and I loved my listening experience when I listened to them. I really don't know how I'm going to go about this reread, but what I do know is that I'm so curious as to how the story has been formatted and crafted now that it has gone through extensive editing in a publishing house. Very fascinating stuff. I absolutely love and adore this trilogy, and based on what Laura Falasa mentioned in her announcement regarding these books being picked up by a publisher, the heart and soul of the original books will translate to the new editions. Not many changes have been made to the main plot and the main story, and hopefully not the main romance, but there have been changes to the way that the series has been formatted, and it has gone through an extensive editing process. So now that I have read the original trilogy twice, all the way through, I am very much looking forward to revisiting it in its new format, and I'm really hoping I love it just as much or maybe even more than the originals. But what I do know is that this is one of my favorite trilogies of all time, and if Laura has spoken up about this herself, then I don't really have much to be afraid of. So I guess that's going to be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay to the end of the video, leave me the yellow heart emoji because I have yellow nails today and I am showing them off, and I love showing them off. If you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers lovers. And also I have social medias. I'm at gswizzlebooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also at Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm at gswizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it into double. Started out with half and I flipped it into double.